Hi there, this is Stephen from the Cataphract Crusaders. Bringing you another battle report. This time it's a 50-point Hordes game. We've got Skorne versus Circle Orboros. Lawrence wanted to see if he could beat my Gargantuan, the Woldwrath. So we'll see what happens. We'll come back in a minute with the mission and the armies.
Right, so to start with, we've got pBaldur as the caster. This is actually a pBaldur theme force. Speaking of which, there is Megalith and a Wold Guardian. That is Woldwrath. I apologise that he's unpainted. And there we've got a Sentry Stone and some Mannikins. A unit of Shifting Stones with the Stonekeeper unit attachment that gives them stealth. 2 units of Woldstalkers, and then a second unit of Shifting Stones. And here we've got pMorghul, a Titan Sentry, a Titan Gladiator, and a Bronzeback Titan. This is one of 2 units of Cataphract Centari. This one here now in shot has the character unit attachment. We've got a max unit of Paingiver Beasthandlers and a Mortitheurge Willbreaker. So this is the table we're going to be playing on. As you see, we're now just doing deployment. I've got 2 lots of woodland, 2 hills, a little bit of rough terrain in the top left, and 2 hedges. We're playing the supply and demand scenario, hence the large circular objective in the middle and the 2 objectives. We're just going down for deployment now. So Woldwrath went under pre-deploy, which means he deploys before any other units. Any large based or Gargantuan base models, such as the 120mm bases, always have this. The only other things I've had to deploy are Baldur, who you can see just this side of the Woldwrath, and the 2 units of Woldstalkers. Tier benefits allow me to deploy my 2 heavies with advanced deploy. So now you can see Lawrence is putting his models out. He's put like a Titan brick sort of in the centre. You've got like 1 unit of Cataphract closer to us behind the trees, starting in shield wall. Oh no, sorry, he hasn't deployed those, he just moved them. It's pMorghul now behind the beast handlers there. Sorry, and there's the Cataphract unit with the UA, I believe, on the far side, starting on a hill, starting in shield wall. Lawrence will put down the counter for it. At the moment, though, there may be some trouble with the hill actually physically letting the models stay in base to base, and he's just pondering about where to put that other unit, but I think he'll settle on partially into the forest to walk them through there. Obviously that will slow them down somewhat because they don't have the Pathfinder skill, which means they will move at half their speed when moving through the woods. Right, I'm now measuring out a 20-inch advanced deploy, because the Shifting Stones and the Sentry Stone Mannikins unit can deploy up to that 20-inch mark thanks to the tier benefits of pBaldur's list. The 2 heavies will only have the extra 6 inches on top of my 7-inch deployment zone, because they will just deploy under the standard advanced deploy rules. So I've chosen to put them in that forest to start with. There's not much, if any, shooting actually on Lawrence's side of the board, but it just seems natural to start them in the woods. Right, so as you can see, near to us on the hill, I've put the Sentry Stone and Mannikin unit. Mannikins are used primarily to either get in the way, because they can choose to destroy themselves to create a forest, or they've got a spray template, which I can use to get a bit of damage off on some models. I'm now moving forward the Woldstalkers, due to, again, to a tier benefit. They get a rule called Advanced Move, which means before the game starts, but after deployment they get to make a move. As you can see, I've chosen not to advance deploy the Sentry Stones. I've actually just deployed them around the Woldwrath. This is actually for Fury clearing purposes. Basically, they have a rule called Serenity, which means they can pull a point of Fury off the Gargantuan. That's to prevent me from over-furying my models, and then also to provide some healing. So I started by trampling Megalith up the board. It means he actually goes quite a reasonable distance. Basically tramples for free thanks to pBaldur. And at the end of the trample, I forced him to use Geomancy. Now, Geomancy allows me to cast one of the spells for cost 3 or less on pBaldur's spell card. So what I've actually done there is I've cast Stone Skin, which gives me -1 speed and -1 defence, but does up my armour and strength by 2, basically making Megalith able to punch harder and endure a lot more damage. I've also trampled the Wold Guardian forward, and then trampled the Gargantuan, the Woldwrath, forward through that forest. As he's a Gargantuan, he doesn't actually care about rough terrain, because he just flattens it all in front of him. Right, and I've activated pBaldur now and moved him forward. He's casting 2 of his spells. He's cast Solid Ground on himself, which means all friendly models in his control area can't be knocked down. And then that small circle within the large circle is a forest that he's placed, thanks to one of his spells. All 3 of the spells out at the moment are upkeep spells, so pBaldur can keep them going each turn. Right, and I've also elected to run that far unit of Woldstalkers on turn 1, just to get them in a nice position for turn 2, knowing that Skorne are a reasonably slow, much like myself actually fielding this particular army, a reasonably slow army. So I feel that I can run them this turn to get them in an optimal firing range for next turn. So I've just placed a point of fury on the Sentry Stone there. What happens is the Sentry Stone automatically generates a point of fury every turn. It can also spend that fury to do various other abilities like teleport itself, but I decided to actually stock up the fury at the moment on it. And then you can see that second unit of Woldstalkers has run forward as well. The Shifting Stones are teleporting forwards into the woodland, just so they're getting closer for the Woldwrath for next turn. Right, so I've actually passed the turn to Lawrence now. I think he's currently trying to decide what various spells or what activation order to move his models around in. What I will do while he's deciding that is I'll go through at least a couple of the spells that he may be using during the game. Now, pMorghul has only got 3 spells, and he's actually got quite a small control area. It does have the spell Admonition, which basically when an enemy model advances and ends its movement within 6 inches of the target model in this model's battle group, so himself or any of his war beasts, the affected model then may advance up to 3 inches, cannot be targeted by 3 strikes, and then the spell immediately expires. So that's useful for preventing an assassination run, for instance, on pMorghul himself. He's also got the Abuse spell, which means war beasts gain +2 speed and strength for 1 round, but take D3 damage. Useful at times, and he's also got a rule that means another spell called Torment, that when a model is damaged by it, because it's a ranged attack spell, for 1 round it loses tough, cannot heal or be healed, and cannot transfer damage. Now, I don't believe Lawrence actually uses that particular spell at all during this game. So as you can see, what he's done so far is he's advanced both units of Cataphract up either flank. The one going through the woods is actually painfully slow because they're marching under shield wall. It may have been better not to have moved them through those woods, but hindsight to 2020. As you can see, Lawrence has run up the various beasts. He's put a few animi out. Specifically, I think the Titan Sentry has something called Locker, which means things in its melee range have to advance directly towards it. Then he's used the Paingivers to remove fury from some of the beasts, basically with what they can do with one of their special abilities. It's like a range 3 ability, and they get to choose one of 3 choices. Anyone who's familiar with Choir of Menoth will understand they're a utility unit much like that. He's also just advanced pMorghul forward, so that pMorghul is sat just behind the Paingivers. You can see his fury tokens there, while Lawrence is sort of discussing his or deciding on what spells he's going to be casting. He just placed Admonition, I believe, on the Central Titan. And I think he was just using up his fury there, and that was using that Animus Locker that I mentioned previously. So as you can see, what you'd expect from a War Machine and Hordes battle report turn 1 is a lot of moving forward, a lot of jostling for position, preparing for inevitable strikes on turn 2. So as you can see, it's my turn. I'm just breathing in my Fury. Realised I'd actually not put enough Fury out for Baldur, so I've had to actually cut for 2 there to get back to my max Fury. Megalith, however, has a rule that means I heal D3 points every turn at the beginning of my turn. So I've healed back 1 of those 2 points. I'm just checking my control range there. I've chosen to upkeep 2 of the spells but let the forest drop, because at the moment the forest isn't of any use to me. I am aware as well that one of the Titans has the Rush Animus, which does grant it Pathfinder, so it'll be able to run and clip the forest. It just won't be able to choose to target something directly behind the forest to charge. So I do have to worry that he could potentially charge regardless of the amount of rough terrain that I create. Right, so actually casting another forest now, mostly to get in the way of all the Titans so they can't come charging in at me. Again, like I said, they'll be able to clip and skirt around the edges, but the idea is generally just to slow them down to prevent them getting the charge in on me. So then we've moved up the Woldwrath, and we're using its gun to shoot at the Titan closest to us on screen. So I decided to boost the rolls here by putting a point of Fury for each roll, in fact, just to guarantee that hit and to try and get as much damage as possible. Because with a POW 15 gun, you want to be trying to do as much damage as possible. Now the Woldwrath's gun has an interesting effect that it puts down a 3-inch AOE around the model hit, and this AOE remains in play for a turn. It also then arcs lightning to the nearest model within 4 inches and creates another 3-inch AOE around that model. So in this case the gun is quite useful setting up blocking lanes or anything like that for small weak infantry like the Paingivers. So as you can see there, I've just killed one of the Paingivers. Sadly Morghul was just outside that 3-inch AOE, so I didn't quite catch him in that. But it does mean, as I said, those will remain in play for a round, so it will prevent anyone walking through them, because as soon as they do, they take a POW 10 damage roll, which against the beasts isn't much really, but against the Paingivers, who are quite flimsy, or even against Morghul, who's only got, I think it was armor 13, it can actually still do a significant amount of damage. So we're moving the Woldstalkers up, just taking a few pot shots. Some I believe have gone against the Cataphract, mostly before I realised that shooting such a high armour value unit is probably a bit pointless, even if it does knock off a couple of points of damage. So I'm actually going to try and focus a lot on the Paingivers that I can see that are behind that Titan, and then just whack a couple of shots into the Titan and the Cataphract just to try and knock a few points off here and there. Yes, in fact, rather foolishly there with the last couple, I've aimed at the Cataphract before realising just how nasty their armour is. So what I've done now is I've done their special action Zephyr, which pulls them back 3 inches, in the off chance that it means I'm now out of charge ranges, or generally speaking I'm just trying to block up charge ranges to my other beasts, because I don't want Lawrence to be able to get any of his Titans into any of my beasts, because Titans are generally quite strong. So now what we've done is we're using the I believe I'm using the Cascading Fire special action. We'll find out in a second if I haven't or not, or if I do use the Zephyr afterwards. The Cascading Fire one means for every subsequent hit I'll be doing an additional +1 POW on my damage rolls, which actually means if the entire unit hits, and at Rat 6 that's likely on a Skorne heavy, the final hit has basically got 4 POW, so it comes out as a POW 16, which even against, I believe that Titan there is either armor 17 or 19, so even then you're rolling an appreciable amount of damage. Yes, it does look like I did the Cascading Fire because I haven't moved anyone back, so I've just moved Megalith forward, and he's actually forcing for 2, I believe, to use his Undergrowth ability. It means everywhere within 5 inches of him is considered to be rough terrain. Again, hopefully try and slow down these Titans. It also means that enemy models within 5 inches of Megalith also get a -2 defense. I haven't really done that for the defense reduction at this point. This was more to create the area of rough terrain. My apologies. Actually, that first bit of focus that went down was actually a geomancy of Boulder Spell Earth Spikes at the Titan that sat in the Woldwrath cloud. That actually managed a critical hit, which means it's knocked that Titan over, which again was quite useful for delaying his army getting to mine. I don't think it did any appreciable damage on the damage roll, although it is POW 13, it's only AoE 3, so it would pretty much be in exactly the same place that the lightning cloud is at the moment. The shifting stones and the Sentry Stone Mannikins have just moved forward a bit, basically getting in a position for next turn. Right, so it's the start of Lawrence's turn, and he's pulled in all his fury off his beasts. I'm just reminding him of the undergrowth up around Megalith, because that may obviously cause issues with his charges. Although he does have, as I said before, he does have the Rush Animus on one of his Titans. So what he's actually asking now is he's asking about being able to charge through the forest, and because it's a 3-inch AoE, he can't see models directly behind it. So he's shuffling those Cataphract nearest the camera up again through those woods. So he's also shield walling that unit forward now. He knows I can't really put that much damage out on them, so I think at the moment he's just aiming to get close enough so he can charge in the following turn. So he's just debating now whether he can actually charge with any of his beasts. Obviously the one closest to us is knocked down. The Titan in the middle is blocked somewhat by the forest and the undergrowth, and the Titan on the far side is obviously it won't be able to draw a line of sight to charge through the wood at Megalith, but it may be able to skirt the wood if it gets the Rush Animus placed on it. Alright, we just realised as well that the had to take a frenzy check for that Titan there. Although I believe he passed. Or he didn't need to pass, sorry, because of one of the other Titans has a leadership ability, which means Titans automatically pass command checks within its command range. It's actually the first game I've ever played against Skorne, so I was a bit apprehensive. I'm aware of them being very similar to Menoth in War Machine, that they've got that Paingiver unit which can hand out all of these various buffs. Although I've never actually played, like I said, I've never played against them before, I am aware that Titans can be quite nasty. So at the moment I was just trying to prevent obviously a lot of charges and him being able to get into my beasts. Right, he did actually force that one to shake the knockdown effect, and then he's charged in. Believe he was under the effects of Rush, although I could be wrong. We might have just completely and utterly forgotten about Undergrowth. So he's got 3 initials, but none of them have reach. You can't quite see, actually, there is a Woldstalker the other side of him, one directly in front of him, one closest to him. So what I've chosen to do is, obviously he's going to get 3 attacks against the 2 nearest, because he won't be able to reach the one just in front of him, because he's out of the 0.5. I believe he did kill at least 1, maybe 2 of that unit. So he's just moved pMorghul out of the kill box, just to make 100% sure that he's not there. He doesn't want to be giving away 2 control points. So I should actually explain kill box. Kill box being if you are completely or wholly within 14 inches of any table edge with your Warcaster, Warlock, at the end of your second turn, or any subsequent turn thereafter, you immediately award your opponent 2 control points. Now obviously in a game where you're looking at 5 control points being an immediate scenario victory, it's not something you really want to give up, which is why Lawrence has placed quite a bit of importance of getting himself out of there. It's actually just deciding what to do. So right, there we go. The Sentry has decided to charge one of the Woldstalkers that is just behind Megalith. He does have the Rush Animus up, so he's got obviously that +2 speed. He's got Pathfinder, so he can skirt through the woods. Because he couldn't choose to target Megalith specifically due to the woods being in the way, he's had a charge attack, and he's declared it with his shield against the Woldstalker just in front of him, and then he's going to use all of his subsequent attacks on Megalith because he's within Megalith's, or within melee range of Megalith, I should say. So the end result of this is that he has managed to stick quite a bit of damage into Megalith. However, because Megalith has obviously a large number of hitboxes, being a character Wold, he also has that increased armour. It's meant that whilst he has done a significant amount of damage, it's not as much as he would have liked to have done. I don't believe he's disabled any of the aspects. So again, now I've remembered about Undergrowth, so I'm just reminding Lawrence for when he's moving the other Titan. So here we go, the other Titan's just moved a little bit forward. Basically, he's trying to jam up my front line, keep my war beasts engaged, generally get in the way. He's actually going to be stopping the Woldwrath getting in on any charges at the moment due to the location. And the Beasthandlers are just moving up behind. I believe they're going to strip off, do some Medicare healing. So one of their actions, they can strip focus, or they can fury even. Sorry, they can strip fury, or they can heal for D3. So they've done a bit of both across the 3 Titans in front of them. He's now just checking the range on the rest of the unit to try and do various abilities on the other Titans, but I believe he's out on most of them. Only just though, and that's mostly because the Titans charged or ran this turn. So the Willbreaker's just run up behind them because at the moment he's not in range to do any of his abilities. I believe that's the end of Lawrence's turn. Which means we actually start. Oh, and he's asking sorry about the Willbreaker's abilities. He was just clarifying one of them. So he's passed the turn to me. No one scored at the end of that turn. He hasn't destroyed my friendly objective. I haven't destroyed his friendly objective. And as you can see, the zone is chock full of Wolds and Skorne at the moment, so there's no chance anyone's going to be scoring from that. So I'll let my forest drop because at the moment it's entirely pointless being there. And I'll keep my other two spells. Baldur now heals back to full thanks to Megalith's healing, and Megalith himself heals a few boxes. Right, so I'm using that special action Zephyr to place those Wolds within 3 inches of their current location. And again, I'm going to be trying to snipe out as many Paingivers as possible. Try and reduce that unit down, just reduce that support that Lawrence has got available for his beasts, both from healing and fury management, and even the extra damage that they can help the war beast kick out. I believe because the guns are POW 12, as long as they hit, because I'm sacrificing my movement as well, because special action Zephyr is 3-inch place, I can then choose to sacrifice my movement to get Rat 8, so I'm finding it quite reasonably easy to hit my targets. And then with the POW 12 guns, it's pretty much an auto kill on the Beasthandlers. There are a couple of guys who in the unit who aren't able to draw any line of sight to the 3 remaining ones, so I've popped a couple of shots into the Cataphract, although it's again done nothing due to the high armor value they've got. The Megalith has moved round the front of the Sentry to try and open up a little bit of room for the Woldwrath. He's also at this point going to pop his Animus for that 5 inches of -2 defence. Because I've still ended within the admonition trigger range on that Bronzeback, I believe, in the centre. He's moved forward, which is actually going to prevent my Woldwrath from charging him, which I think was his primary motive, because he knew obviously the Woldwrath was going to have strong fists. He didn't want that extra charge bonus damage coming off on him. So there we go, I'm just measuring up the -2 defence bubble there. I believe it actually clips all 3 Titans, which reduces them to defence 10 or less, making it quite easy for my Wolds to hit them. It's mostly like rolls for 3 or 4s now to hit. Megalith obviously having that +2 strength spell up on him at the moment means he's power and strength 18, so he's at dice -3 I believe against the Sentry, because of the Sentry's shield. It's not enough to one round the Sentry by any means, but he can put an appreciable amount of damage into it. So I'm completely stoked him up on Fury just to get as many extra initials as possible. You can't see annoyingly because the Woldwrath is in the way. I've actually moved a unit of Sentry Stones up behind him. That's to be able to Serenity off some of that Fury at the beginning of the next turn. Basically the Serenity action, which I did mention earlier as well, at the beginning of your turn, I believe in your maintenance phase, it allows, if you are within 1 inch of a War Beast, a Shifting Stone may take a point of Fury from them. And now it stops you over Furying your War Beasts, which is quite good, because Wolds won't frenzy, so they won't get rid of that Fury when they frenzy, which sometimes can be useful. But as they can't, there needs to be that extra level of Fury management in the list. Knowing that I was taking on Skorne would have to be spending Fury a lot to be able to actually get an appreciable amount of damage through that heavy armour. So now we've moved that other unit of Wolds, and taken a couple of pot shots at the Titan closest to me, and we've charged in the Guardian. The principal idea at this point, because it has ram on its fists, which mean they get pushed back 1 inch and are knocked down, it was to try and knock down both those Titans. Now I've knocked down that one I charged and actually killed it because it had so few hitboxes left. So now I've gone with my second initial into that Titan next to me. I've chosen not to push it back, but obviously it is knocked down. And in fact from there, for fury management, I've chosen not to actually buy any further attacks, assuming that the Woldwrath can get the job done. Both his fists are power and strength 19, which means he's looking at straight damage on the Titan closest to us, the one in the middle. For whatever damage he rolls, he's obviously auto-hitting in melee. And when he hits, he's got a 4-inch AoE on whatever he hits in melee, and it knocks down anything within those 4 inches. Now both my heavies there have steady, which means they are immune to that knockdown effect. However, I believe I've knocked one of my Woldstalkers over, as well as his Sentry. Knocking over the Sentry was obviously much more important, and I frankly didn't mind about that little Woldstalker. He was going to die anyway. There's a unit of Cataphract right next to him. So knocking him down would obviously help in the further melee attacks. I actually managed to roll quite poorly here. I threw what, five of a possible 6 melee attacks into the Titan in front of me rather than the Sentry, and I believe I only just actually managed to take him off. Although obviously Lawrence was quite happy with that. So what I've done there is I've actually shot the Titan with the gun because it's lying on the floor. Yeah, POW 15 gun. I'm not that fussed about the electric damage. It will leap to Megalith, and POW 10s aren't going to worry Megalith at this point because he's got that +2 armour from the spell. So I was willing to take those POW 10s, mostly to try and get the POW 15 on that Sentry. So we've moved the Sentry Stone forward a bit, and then we're going to move the Mannikins over that hedge, and they have an 8-inch spray weapon. So what we're trying to do there is take off those last 3 Paingivers. Now I've sacrificed that Mannikin to turn him into a forest, which is what that 3-inch AoE in front of us is. I haven't put down any of the AoE rings around the Sentry and around Megalith because we can easily measure it, and they'll just get tangled up and snarled up in all those models. Normally I would put them down, but because there's so many models grouped in there, there's some Sentry Stones, there's some Woldstalkers, there's those 2 heavies. We didn't want to put any down because it would just cause a mess. Right, so with those 2 sprays, we managed to actually, despite only being Rat 4, take out 2 of those Paingivers. Lawrence has then taken his command check and passed. So there's that one remaining Paingiver who's stubborn to the last and refusing to back down. Although obviously Lawrence is now in quite a tight spot. He's got 2 units of remaining Cataphract, but I actually have got the 2 heavies and the Woldwrath still. Mostly, I mean, the Woldwrath at this point has taken no damage, the Guardian has taken no damage, Megalith's taken maybe about 1/3 to 1/2 of his damage boxes, so he's still in a bad enough way. I believe in all that shooting as well, possibly from the Woldstalkers, the Mortitheurge Willbreaker was killed. So Lawrence at the moment is trying to decide what to do with that unit of Cataphract closest to us, because he can't really get out of the woods and charge. So what he's doing, I believe he's running the unit, just to get them out of the woods for next turn, because he knows that wood that the Mannikins created is going to vanish, and he can see at this point that I'm not going for his objective. So now this unit, that other unit on Cataphract on the other side, has charged. they're just going to make an absolute mess of things. Some of them have got in onto Megalith, actually, I believe. I think 2 of them are in there to try and get rid of him, clear out his last few boxes. The rest are going against the Woldstalkers, again, just to clear them out, which is why I'd put them there, just to create like a wall, like a shield, against my heavies, against Megalith being targeted, although I didn't quite manage that. And the support unit, like the shifting stones. Right, so Cataphract are mat 7, pound strength 11 with Weapon Master, so on the chart they're rolling 4 dice of damage. So at this point it was don't roll a quadruple 1 and you kill the Woldstalkers. They needed a 5 to hit still, but the damage was pretty much a guaranteed dead Woldstalker. Luckily the entire unit is made of construct, so I don't need to take any sort of command check. They do also have reach, the Cataphract, which makes them on the charge quite nasty. So he's actually moving Morghul up now. Well, he's actually just cast Abuse on the Sentry, which I thought personally was a bit of a gamble because he had very low Spirit at this point. So if he'd rolled D3 and managed to get that damage right on that Spirit, he would have actually stopped himself from being able to force for further attacks. However, that +2 strength was the gamble, but I think Lawrence needed it, or felt he needed it, to be able to try and carve some holes in some of my things. Right, this is all the Sentry's attacks. He's wailing into Megalith in an attempt to remove him. Obviously, he doesn't like that -2 defense debuff that Megalith can drop out around him. Doesn't like that terrain that he can put out. And generally, I think he's on a bit of payback at the moment for me having killed those 2 beasts on the previous turn. Right, so we've breathed back in all the fury. As you can see, Megalith somehow managed to survive all of that. The only problem is at the moment, as close as Morghul is, as close as he has feated this turn, which means I can't force in his control area. I can spend fury, but I can't force. So the problem is, whilst I'll get my initial attacks with everything off, I can't boost hit, I can't boost damage. This was that problem. I've charged there for free, thankfully, due to Baldur's Elemental Communion, allowing his constructs to charge, slam, trample, various power attacks for free, without having to force. Morghul has defense 17, so I was just trying in an off chance, and a bit of a gamble actually, to try and take him out with the Guardian. As it happens, I believe I missed both of my initial attacks. There I put a token down to force him to buy another attack until Lawrence reminded me about his feat. It does similar things to War Machine as well. It prevents them from spending focus whilst within his control. His control area is small, it is only 10 inches. However, at this point, it's pretty much taking up the entire centre of that area, which means pretty much nothing of mine can force. So we've moved Megalith around again, just to punch a few things. He's pretty much dead at this point anyway, because he's got so few hitboxes left. Luckily he hasn't lost any spirals, so he's still got all of his mental, physical and spiritual aspects, I guess. So he's still able to get all of his 2 dice off on everything, and he's still allowed to be forced, although he can't be forced due to Morghul's feat. So again, I've just whacked in 2 hits, probably against the Sentry actually, I imagine. So we've just moved the Woldwrath in just to finish off the Sentry. Again, as long as that first attack hits, everything within 4 inches falls over. So he's doing something like dice -2, but I believe the Sentry's taken so much damage at this point, it pretty much dies from the 2 fist attacks. Yep, there we go. Or it might even have died from the first initial, actually. So yes, just died from the first initial. I've checked my reach range, and I can hit that Cataphract. And we're just measuring what is caught in the 4-inch AoE. Unfortunately, not Morghul. Only there's a couple of Cataphract around there, and there's the Paingiver, is it? The last remaining Paingiver in front of Morghul. Which I then shoot with my Power 15 gun, which kills him. Does a Power 10 to Morghul. Again, he's now got no beast to transfer that damage to. Being a Horde's Warlock, he can spend a point of fury to transfer any damage he takes directly to one of his war beasts. Now, because these war beasts are already all dead, he's taking a straight Power 10 damage roll. He's only armor 13 as well, so there's actually quite a chunk taking him out of him from there. The Electro Leap from that gun then hits my Guardian, because my Guardian was closer than he was. Again, POW 10 to an armor 20 Guardian does next to nothing. The Guardian's taken no damage at this point. So again, it's another POW 10 roll against Morghul, who again takes a bit more damage. At this point I thought, well, I might as well throw stuff in. I'm not necessarily getting desperate, but I might as well try and kill Morghul if I can. So I've just dropped 2 sprays into him, which I believe both miss. Morghul being that defense 17. Just checking my control area. The one remaining Woldstalkers just moved over and shot a Cataphract and done nothing. The rest of the Shifting Stones have moved up just in a support place for next turn. Move Boulder back, so he's towing into the zone but well out of Morghul's charge range, and we've moved those Woldstalkers up to try and block charge lanes from the Cataphract into the Woldwrath, and to take a few pot shots at them in the off chance again we can cause a few points of damage using that cascading fire bonus. I believe now they're no longer in Shield Wall. I can't remember if they're still in Shield Wall or not. I don't believe they are, because I believe they ran last turn, which means the Cascading Fire actually does do a little bit of damage to a couple of them, because they are only base armour, I think 16. So I rolled quite poorly and managed to do only a couple of points here and there. So now it's Lawrence's turn. He's charged in with the Cataphract again. That Weapon Masters means they're going to make short work of pretty much everything they've just charged. So there go the two Mannikins. I believe the Sentry Stone goes next. Yep, there we go. And now he's got some attacks on some of those Woldstalkers. So whilst I may have killed Lawrence's beasts, he's still got those two completely fully functioning Cataphract units. They have taken a few boxes of damage. So normally, given my my armor 20 walls, I wouldn't be that worried by them. However, because they have that Weapon Master ability, 4 dice, you're looking at approximately average like a roll of 14, which means you're looking at damage roll 25, so each on a charge whacking around 5 points of damage to even to an armor 20 wold like I've got, which between an entire unit with reach, so they can actually leave enough gaps to get the reach spears through between the bases, means they are actually reasonably strong and reasonably tough. So I'm not looking forward to being left with only them to deal with. Right, and on the other side, Lawrence is basically just clearing up one of the units of Shifting Stones and that last remaining Woldstalker. And he's put a tiny bit of damage into the Woldwrath. Again, because of that power and strength 11 with the Weapon Master on the charge, he's chipping away a little bit, but the Woldwrath has got a lot of damage boxes. The thing with Gargantuans and Colossals, they are they're twice the points and about twice the hitboxes of a regular size heavy of their type. So other factions, specifically in War Machine, they'd be approximately twice the boxes of a heavy jack of their faction. This being a Wold construct, it's obviously got that armor 20 and having a large amount of hitboxes, because that's what Wolds are like in Circle. If it was some sort of giant Warp Wolf, then it'd probably have a reasonably good defense, but quite a few less hitboxes. When I say reasonably good defense for a Colossal or Gargantuan, which I believe at the moment the maximum is 10, and that's on Stormwall because it dances as well as Khador heavies at the moment. So Lawrence is actually trying to decide what to do with Morghul, because he's the only guy who's got left to activate at this point. He's already stood in the two clouds, the two AoEs, I should say, sorry, from the Woldwrath gun. So moving through them won't actually do any damage to him. So he's actually charged straight through the middle there to get to that one model of mine. He has got Admonition up on him. He's realised he's actually placed him wrong there, so he's just moved him back a little bit. He's got parry, so Woldwrath's not going to be smacking him with his fists, which is a shame, because that would have been an end. That would have been a very abrupt end. and rather predictably being a Warlock, and that he's only attacking a unit leader he's just ripped into pieces. He also has Sprint, which I believe Lawrence is going to trigger now. Obviously desperate to get away from the Woldwrath, he's now going to sprint behind me, which is an interesting tactical choice. However, I can see why he did it. It means he's put him... I can't charge him because Baldur is facing the other way. And the Woldwrath can't reach him from there either, because my own models are in the way. He might have, but I can't be 100% sure. He might have triggered the kill box with Morghul, but I'm not sure. I think we did check the range actually, he might have been just inside, he might have just been safe. So Baldur moves next to him to try and hit him. Spend a Fury for a boosted attack roll, get in the way of the camera, my apologies. Oh no, sorry, there's Lawrence in the way of the camera there. Before realising he's in the way of the camera, so he's moved back to the side. Lawrence then triggers Admonition. So he's actually moved out of my reach range and into the trees, so makes it more difficult to shoot with the Woldwrath. He's actually again moved out of Baldur's charge arc, I believe. So I've moved some shifting stones in there to prevent Morghul from charging Baldur and putting Baldur within their 3 stones so I can teleport him if I need to in my next turn. I then shot one of the stones with my Stonekeeper, because Stonekeeper's got a POW 13, POW 14 AoE, so some of the blast damage will go into Morghul. Woldwrath is doing the same thing. I'm choosing to shoot the stone right in front of Morghul, because it will mean Morghul will take blast damage. Again, this further reduces Morghul's hitboxes left. I think he's now down to about 5-6 hitboxes, having just blown up my own stone. And then Electro Leap to him. I believe actually after the Electro Leap roll, now he's down to the 5 or 6 boxes. And the Guardian moves in back into range to be forced, and just smacks some Cataphract around, just finishes some off. Now they're out of shield wall, they're down to, I believe, armour 16. So the Guardian's power strength 17 fists, I think, means he's rolling. It's easy enough to remove them, even with their 8 boxes. It's generally easy enough to kill them in 1 or 2 hits. I wasn't that fussed about turning the Woldwrath back to the Cataphract. If they charge him in the front, they're still going to hit him. The +2 to hit from a rear arc charge makes no difference really. The Woldwrath's only like defense 7, so it's only double 1s. So that's Lawrence's turn, and he is charging the Woldwrath. That one guy is staying in base to base with the Guardian, which means he's only got the 3 dice for the damage, which means he does nothing. However, the other four Cataphract do manage to put a reasonable amount of damage into the Woldwrath, only because between the lot of them they're obviously all doing a little bit of chipping. So now declaring a charge with the other unit. As many of them as possible are going into the Woldwrath, again with those reach spears being able to get through the gaps, and then a couple of them have gone into the back of the Guardian basically because they can't reach the Woldwrath. I'm not sure how much of that card you just saw, but I was just showing the card to the camera to show how much damage the Woldwrath had taken. He'd taken a fair amount, well over half down from the Cataphract charge there, and then you got the 2 into the back of the Guardian, again doing a reasonable amount of damage, not enough to take out any of his spirals though, which means he is fully functioning for next turn. Same actually for the Woldwrath, he is actually fully functional still. There's no particularly dead spirals, I don't believe. Right, so Morghul's coming out of the templates to try and assassinate Baldur. Basically the end result in this is he pumps a bit of damage into Baldur and then the camera cut out on us. So Baldur has managed to survive this assassination attempt. Baldur turns around, smacks him down and kills him in one hit with 2 boosts. 1 to damage, 1 on the attack roll.
Right, hi guys, sorry about the video problem at the end there, but we had a good game. Lawrence is definitely interested in trying out his Skorne again. I was very happy with how the Woldwrath worked, definitely be using him again. Probably need to get him painted a bit more first though, before I get him on any more video battle reports at the very least. But in general we had a good game, it was good fun. We obviously weren't using timed turns, so it wouldn't be like it would have been in like say a tournament environment, start up on the Woldwrath. But in general we had good fun. Lawrence definitely wants to try Skorne out again, and I think he's definitely ready for a round 2 against the Woldwrath at a later date.